Let me pull up the assignment. Okay, so we talked a little bit about typecasting. I was gonna add a couple more tasks for you, but I think the 5 exercises along with wrapping up part D, I know some of you already submitted because you're ahead. But I just want to make sure everybody's on the same track, right? And you see there's coercion rule explicit. We can force cast it down to a certain container size or the type. So the last part C, was you just run the program, test it, and then give me your observation. But definitely useful in the case that you need to make sure your container is in specific type. Okay. Now we're going to talk about compound assignment. This is very important. For example, if I am making a program, as you see the example program for a business, or even myself to use, right? So you are going to use the mathematical operators, but when you combine them together, they mean additional functions, okay? So when you're using the equal sign operator, the equal operator, it really means is in programming. So for example, right, like you have a variable, you put equal sign and you initialize a value. Like your variable is X and X is 5, right? And we add a semicolon, right? And we put the type like int in front. So when you say you use the equal sign, it's basically saying it is this value. Now, when you add the plus sign in front of it, it really means that it's going to take whatever that's in X and it's going to add 3 to it. So if X is 5 to start, right, then we're going to take 5 plus 3, then your result is going to be 8. Okay? And if we add the subtraction sign or the negate sign in front of the equal sign, it simply is whatever the value in that variable, and it's going to take that and subtract the number that you add, okay, that you include there. So if X is 5, it's going to take 5, subtract 3, and we would end up with X is 2. Okay. And as you can see, these are called compound assignments, or your textbook call it combined assignment. You would hear both terms being referred for using the operators together. Okay. So I can do that with multiplication, division, right? And when you see the percentage symbol, it means mod. So when we do a mod, we simply take the value, divide it, and whatever remains is going to be the result. So if I have X is 5, it's going to take 5 mod 3. So if you take 5 divided by 3, you have 1 as a result and 2 as a remainder. So that 2 is then going to be included, okay? So as a result. Now you can also use other operator, logical operator like AND. And the way that the computer will look at AND is different. At the bit level, it is actually a gate. So your computer is an integrated circuit. It simply sends signal when it is 1, when it's on, and drop signal when it's off, right? So when you're using an AND operator or an OR operator, it's simply switch on specific gates, okay? So now you can use the AND, the OR operator with your equal sign, right, for the compound assignment. So it just takes whatever in that variable and it's going to apply the operator, the logical operator to it. So we are saying X or 3 or X and 3. It's not addition. It's not subtraction. It's simply a logic for gates with binary. And so, and you can also do bit shift, like if you want to take that value, it converts it to binary. equivalent, and it would shift the bits. So we want to kind of look at this table, and I want to ease you in by looking at example 4 or 3. So Tasty Donuts sells 50 donuts a day. Each donut costs $1.50. Calculate the total sales of the donuts in the week using compound assignments operator. We're not using a loop for this one because the iterative and conditional statements will be coming in the future weeks. So I wanted to show you how we would start the program. Just like all the other programs, you are going to have the header file, which is for input and output for IO stream. And we want to put using namespace std. So whenever you use cin or cout, you don't have to put std : right? It just take a lot of typing. So you just put it at the top. So that way, when you use cin and cout, you don't have to add the std to it. Okay. Since we are using the main function only, we're not creating our own function, we initialize our variables in the main function. These are local to the function. So we know that the donut shop sells 50 donuts a day. So I have a variable called daily donuts, and that's $50. And since the price have decimal points, we often use double instead of float. The reason why double is used is you can have a very large sum at the end or a very large price, right? So for example, if you're looking at like for in my field, a firewall appliance could be $70,000 or $150,000, right? So the price can be very expensive for appliances, or sometimes it could be very small. But we want to scale in the type, so that way, in the case if the price gets bigger, right, the container is able to hold it. So we put price per donut, $1.50, and we want to find out the total sales for the week. So you want to initialize it at 0, so that way, basically, it starts there, right? We don't know how much they sell yet, right? We have to calculate it. So we want to start it at 0. And we want to kind of display, because we want to show the human what we're doing when we do the calculation. So we want to do a cout. And you don't have to put all of these symbols in the front or the back. That's just for look, right, in the console. So for day 1, we simply take the total sales variable and we use compound assignment, right? So we are going to take the daily donuts, we're going to multiply it by price per donut, 50 times $1.50. That's going to give you the sale for the day 1. And as we go, what we're going to do is we're going to increment it. So the reason why we're using the plus and the equal sign is we're going to take day 1, add it with day 2, add it with day 3, and so on. So we're going to take this variable and add it with itself as we go from day 1 to day 7. Everybody got that? Do you have any questions on that? Okay. Now, the easiest way is to put it into a for loop, which we'll learn later on, where you just write 2 lines or 3 lines, and there you have it, right? You can have 150 days, and it's still going to loop for you instead of writing 150 lines, okay? But as you can see, day 1, I'm going to take 50 times 150. It's going to give me the sale for the day 1, and I'm going to take that and add it to the total sale for the day 2. So that's why we're using the plus and the equal sign there. And then we're going to display, after we add everything up, the total sales for the week. And this is what you see in, like, you know, finance and business applications, or even when you're doing shopping online, right? When you add all your items to your cart, right? It's going to keep adding the subtotal, and then we would calculate the tax for the region, right? And then add in the shipping fees, and there you have your complete total, and a person can process the transaction that way. So you see it in daily applications quite a bit. Okay, so I had this on my online compiler. I'm just going to run it so you can see. Oh, sorry, I forgot to select my language. Okay. So let's pull this up because my Zoom is locking it. Okay, so it shows that the Tasty Donuts makes $525 for the week, which could be, so in analysis for this, right? If you're doing data analytics, you kind of have to dive in and see how much they're making a day, how much they're making a week. We want to see if that's normal, right? So we want to see, is that gonna meet the statistic? And you know, some business, they require that prediction, like for example Walmart and Target, those type of the national chain stores, they would, or even fast food restaurants, right? They wanted to see how much sales. And so if from a management perspective, you can see, like, do you want to push more marketing to be able to have more sales, or, you know, and then we have to still subtract like all the costs that we have for to be able to make any kind of profit. So any question? All right, so we're going to use the same technique, and we are going to do something with savings. So after you run the example, right, you would use the same technique, and you would want to calculate the savings that Liz can save in 3 months. So Liz starts out with $1,000 in her saving account, and every month she deposits $1,000 to it, right? Yes, you can just do the math and add it up, right? But we wanted to code this. So in a banking application, we wanted to see how much money, and if she's going to make interest at the end, right? So we wanted to see how much money she's going to save in 3 months. Okay. And we have to use compound assignment operator to calculate the 3 months. And I kept it 3 so that way you don't have to type many lines. Okay. All right. You have your compiler open and your ID or your IDE. Okay. I have it pre-written so that way I can spend more time helping you in case you need it. So, okay. So I'll walk you through it. So just like the other program, you are going to include IO stream using namespace std at the top. That's the basic. And we are going to have all our variables inside the main, because there's only one function that we're using currently. Sorry, all of these adds. And my variable, I just call it savings, right? We have double savings, and we were given that Liz start out with $1,000 in her account. Now, every month she's going to deposit an additional $1,000. So we want to call that deposit or added saving, whatever you want to call that. You just got to make sure that it implies, right? It implies the variable name means something in the program. So I have monthly deposit, and that's another $1,000 each month. So we wanted to kind of display what she has at the beginning, right? So initial savings is going to be, we're going to bring down the $1,000 value, and we're going to see out. So just like how we practice on Tuesday, when you do a see out, double arrow to the left, we want to display how much money she starts with in her savings. And you want to put the dollar sign there so that way we know it's dollars. Are we okay with this? Any question? Yes. Okay. Did you have to document like what you did last time? So you're gonna go right here. We are working on so that we access the shots. So we're gonna start with the top, the header file, and then we are going to add using namespace std, so that way when we see in see out, we don't have to retype std. I'll zoom in a little bit more so it's easier to see. Is that better? Okay.
Yes.
So we have two variables only because we're only interested in how the amount of money she starts with and how much money 3 months later that she has in her account. So after you initialize your variable, right, remember that this is given to us the $1,000 for the initial, and each month deposit is $1,000. Then we're gonna display what she has at the beginning. So you do a C out, initial saving, and you can display whatever text that you want. But like I said, be clear and simple to illustrate what you're trying to show to the user. And we want to bring down the amount that she starts with, which is $1,000 for savings. And I want it not to be clumped together like lines on top of another lines or next to another line, right? I want it to be in order. So I have an NL here, so that way it's the first line to display, and then there will be subsequent line displaying. So in month 1, we're going to take whatever the amount that she had in the saving, and we're going to add it to the monthly deposit. So it's going to take $1,000 for the initial saving, and it's going to add the deposit. So if she deposits $2,000, then it's going to take $2,000 and add it to the $1,000. So she will have more, right? But in this case, she has $1,000 that she deposits each month. So we would use the compound assignment operator there. So you just do a plus equal sign so that means that it's gonna take saving, which is $1,000, and add it to the monthly deposit. So it's like equal to this, same as, right? Savings equals savings plus monthly deposit. And we kind of want to indent because, like I mentioned before, inside your function, it's just cleaner to look at the code block. I do have students that don't indent. It's just hard to read your code if you don't indent. So make it look nice, right? Aesthetic is important. When you get programming jobs, they look at those things, like how you write your program, right? How your program functions. And then we repeat the same thing for month 2 and month 3. So for month 2, it's going to take whatever that was saved from month 1 and it's going to add it, right? So it's just going to update the savings variable as it goes, right? So if she goes for the whole year, it's going to keep doing that 12 times. Any questions? Do you need any help? I can't resize it. And don't forget the return 0 and the closing curly brace. That's important. Otherwise, it's gonna throw an error. So from this program, you can also create your own, right, finance program. I give this as a project to my Python students when I teach it, right? But they have to put in a little bit of analysis with it to show like, you know, do they save more or less in a year? So it does a little bit of graph or, so they can add the component. But ultimately, this is a good foundation to start, right? You can prompt the user how much money do you want to start with? Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to sleep. Or my projector just cut off. There it is. Just lost signal for a second. Any question? Pretty easy, right? So it's not about just copying code. I hope that when you look and type your code, look through your code, right? You're catching the error so you can learn from your error. And also you would understand a little bit more by doing it. So in the future, if you're given something similar, you're able to do it. Any question? Okay, seems like you guys are getting the hang of it. Okay, so once we have everything written down, right, on our editor, this is the editor where you can add your code. Then you can click run and you can look at the console on the bottom to see how much money she saved, right? If you do the math quickly in your head, you can also know the answer, but we wanted to put it into C++. And if you want to save, you can save. You just have to make sure you log in, right, using Google account or other accounts. And if you want to save it, you can also download the file, the CPP file, so you can use it later. But I just require a screenshot. So as I explained this last time, you can use snip. Right? And then it's going to open up the application, and then you can just drag it from left to right. So click new, hold down your left button on your mouse and drag from corner to corner, then paste it to the document. So the reason why I do screenshot is if you look at your program a week from now, you kind of know what you did, right? You can go back and review. Yeah, CPP file is cool too. Some professor requires that you submit that for. So for my projects in my class, they submit the program file and the documentation in software. We'll talk about documentation later. Okay, so if If it's complaining, if your compiler is throwing an error, it'll tell you which line, right? Usually maybe a typo, you might be missing something. If you didn't declare the variable at the top and you're trying to use it, it's going to complain as well. So we just want to make sure that our variables name match, semicolon at the end of each statement, return 0 and have a closing brace. Now, sometimes you're going to see many curly braces, right? You just got to make sure that they pair up. If you open one, you got to close one. Okay, so if you have an open curly brace at the top, at the end, you're going to have a closing curly brace. Otherwise, it would not compile. C++ won't run your program without the complete code, correct code. Okay. Any question? This class is required for other C++ classes. So if you have a good foundation starting from here, you won't struggle in CIS 17A, right? Or even if you take other programming language like Java, it's similar. So it's easy to kind of transition to another language once you understand C++. And then discrete structure, which I teach, we are required to complete CIS5. So, and in that class, we use C++. Okay, any question? Now, if you use Visual Studio, you can, right? You can install Visual Studio on your computer and you can use the editor to write. It will also have the console on the bottom. I know Mr. McCreed usually have his students use Visual Studio, but I think now, because there are a lot of resources, you can use many different platforms or IDE. Okay, double check everything for our statement. So when you debug your program, there's also a debug option up here. It's going to help you find the problem, right? So sometime if you have a very lengthy program, you can also use the debug option and be able to run it through, kind of like a little checker before you compile it. Or if you run it and you run into error, right? Sometimes the error can be advanced, and if you don't know, you can also find that online, right? Now you have access to AI. It's wonderful. It should be your study partner to be able to help you troubleshoot, because the job that you're going to get, you have to program with AI, right? So okay. Once we have everything, make sure you run it, right? And take a screenshot. You don't, if the screenshot doesn't show all your code, that's okay. I wanted to see that you attempt successfully, right? And you have some kind of output on the bottom. And then paste that to the document. So we have completed the stuff that or the assignment that we are set out to do from Tuesday. Once you complete that, you can save your document and upload it to Canvas. And I will get these graded for you, right, by next week. But it's due next week, right? So if you submit it, I'll have it graded. And then anything that you submit, I'll update the grades too. Okay. If you're done with this task, download Lab 3 and we'll work on those together. And that should wrap up all the concepts that we need to cover in Unit 3.
So plus on the right side.
Yeah.
No, it's just a plug-in.
For the comment, yeah. Yeah. It's just, you don't have to add the comment. I just want to show everybody that it's the same as having saving plus monthly deposit. That's what compound assignments does, right? You take itself and add it. So if you use the multiplication, it's going to take itself and multiply, right? Okay.
But when we submit the assignment, we have to convert it to PDF or just submit it as
If it's doc, it's fine. PDF is fine. Now Canvas can read pages, .pages file. So if you use Apple system, before it did. So I used to make students convert it to PDF for me. Yeah, it will accept file upload, doc, or PDF. I don't require file extension only because some students have Google Chromebook and sometimes they use the, the Google application, but it allows you to convert it to doc. So yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with you using doc or docx, right, which is Word document or PDF or whatever you like. Yeah, that way I can, when I go through the grade book, it gives me the preview and I can see. Okay. Are we okay? Everybody's completing? All right. So the half part of the PowerPoint, I thought about it yesterday when I was like trying to put together something for you, right? As I just took over the class, I didn't have much time to prep. But anyway, I like to keep everything on one document so that way you can see the concept and apply it when you program. So if you look at Lab 3, you can take a look at it first. And now some of the functions that we're going to use in string and math functions for C math, we're not going to use all of them. There are many, right? But I'm going to show you some of the basics so that way you can apply it to the program or use it for something that you need in the future. Okay. So now we're going to talk about Lab 3. Where can I find Lab 3? You should ask, right? If you look at you can go to assignments. If you look, there's Unit 3 lab exercises, right? I like to put the due date to my assignment so student can see, but you can also see that with Canvas time here. So it's right below the programming exercise. You just click that link and download the document on that page. If you notice the programming exercises, I have the video added here. So before I start Lab 3, I'm going to end my Zoom session so it gives me separate video. Okay, give me a second.